Kingston Pop Museum tonight and tomorrow, and if you come, John will tell you all these stories.
No, not really. I'll be too busy. You gotta book me for personal conversations.
Kingston Pop Museum on Broadway in Kingston presents Tripple A Exhibition, a tribute to Andy Warhol, Antonio Lopez, and Bill Aucoin, featuring artworks from many recognized local names and international talents. With explosive opening receptions this Friday and Saturday nights, 6 p.m., the Tripple A Exhibition lineup includes artists, musicians, designers, poets, and more. Kingston Pop Museum delivers a new wave of popular cultural art, music, and fashion in the heart of Kingston's Midtown Arts District. The Tripple A exhibit, opening nights this Friday and Saturday. RSVP is a must. Kingston Pop Museum.
So, the Michael Alago, you signed Metallica.
I did.
You are a prominent gay rights activist, and you're here tonight.
Yes. Why am I here tonight?
Yeah.
Because John Stavros invited me. I know John since around 1983, and we've just been in touch on and off, because you know, there was a point in his life he was doing one thing, I was doing another, and then of course when you like somebody and you relate to them, at some point you all just come together again, and you know, that's a beautiful thing. So I'm here because I'm showing a photograph. I'm selling my memoir. I am Michael Alago, and I wanted to see all the different types of art that he was showing, and boy oh boy, it's certainly a variety of things, which is very inspiring, and you know, it inspires me to continue to make art, and so I don't know, here we are.
So, your art, your photography.
Yes.
What do you want people to see about it, especially in the context of pop? You know.
Well, most of my photography has been erotic photography, and it's been mostly men, and men who are scarred and tattooed. And I've had 3 books put out on that work. Tonight, above the door, in the next room, is a black and white 2020 portrait of a young woman I met backstage at Slayer. I thought she was really beautiful, and her tattoos were extraordinary. So I said, let's go to the bathroom. And in about 10 minutes, I got 5 pictures of her, and the one that I'm showing tonight, with her head to the side and her eyes closed, I thought was the most beautiful. And I love asking people to close their eyes in photographs, because for me, that just quiets everything down, and it makes the person approachable.
So, why do you choose the subjects that you do? Because you said you want them to be approachable, but a lot of them look very different from normal models.
I never have a problem approaching anyone. You know, people look like, you know, they can rip your head off, or just lovely, you know. So I'm a people person. I always have been. I love all types of people, but my work has been, like I said, mostly of men. And again, I just don't have a problem approaching people. And most of the time, I've been very lucky, and people have just said yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Michael Alago, I love you. So I'm going to do a little bit from his book. He was a little young kid, 15-year-old little guy, like, oh, I'm from Brooklyn. So anyway, he became a legend because he hung out with us, you know, and we used to wear stiletto heels, and we were drag rock and rollers and shit like that. Then he made it into a business, you know. He discovered Metallica, okay, big band. And we are here with him, and I'm honored to have him here. So whoever wants to have him autograph his personal book, he, I think, brought a few of them. But we want him to say a few words, though. You know, come on, Michael, we love you. Yeah, yeah. Another story. After he was the head A&R of a big record company, he became the head guy at the Ritz, and we all survived the Ritz. So whoever was at the Ritz, there was always Jerry Brand's like main guy, and if you couldn't go through him, fuck you.
Thank you, John. I just told that a little backwards, but that's okay. I was like, you know, I met John like in 1983. Where was I in 1983? Oh no, I met John in 1980. I just started working at the Ritz. I was 19 years old, and it was my first job in the music business. You know, growing up in Brooklyn, I always said, I'm going to be in the music business when I grow up. But I didn't play an instrument or anything, so I just didn't know like how it would manifest itself. So at some point, I started working at record companies for 25 years, and I signed Metallica and Rob Zombie, and I worked with Cyndi Lauper, and my all-time favorite artist, Nina Simone. And then somebody decided they were making a movie about me called Who the Fuck Is That Guy? And it's on Amazon Prime right now. And then out of that, somebody said, well, do you have more stories to tell? And I said, well, I always have stories to tell. So this little book came into play. So if I find something good to read to you, it's all good. Okay, hold that thought for just 1 minute, please. I'm never together. Oh, yeah.
The juicy parts.
Brooklyn. I came out of the womb loving music. There was never a day that music didn't encompass my every waking moment. In 1966, I started listening to 77 WABC on my portable transistor radio. The Beatles, Steppenwolf, Aretha Franklin, Martha and the Vandellas, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, the Beach Boys and Dusty Springfield. A few years later, I watched Creedence Clearwater Revival and Gladys Knight and Grand Funk Railroad and Todd Rundgren on American Bandstand, Don Kirshner's rock concert, and Soul Train. That music was my lifeline. It was my nourishment. That was how I grew up. It was the beginning of my journey. Because I wasn't kind of prepared for this.
Oh,
Johnny's
go to page 69.
Oh, Lord.
Go to page 42, Times Square.
Talk amongst yourselves. I have no idea what's going on.
Okay, you need some help?
No, I need no help. Just 30 seconds, 30 seconds.
There'll be a quiz.
There'll be a quiz. Oh, God, help me, please.
Table of contents.
What?
Table of contents.
Oh, that's what I love you. Yeah, I don't even know what's going on in my own fucking book. We'll try Metallica. Because that's what everybody always wants to hear about anyway. Being in the metal community and having listened to heavy metal for years, I knew signing Metallica was going to be historic. They didn't sound like anybody else, and no one sounded like them. But I was getting in the way of a band's contractual obligations with another record company, and I knew that it would cause some major problems. Because the issue was bigger than my career, it would affect Elektra's parent company, Time Warner, and thus Bob Krasnow. Except there was no way that I couldn't take that risk. And the band wanted to sign with me anyway. Nothing is impossible, I let the guys know. That's really not right. Okay. Yeah. After we finished our Chinese food and drank some more beer, I called Krasnow and asked him to come into the conference room. A few minutes later, he entered in his characteristic regal way, impeccably dressed with a lit cigar in his mouth. He was older than anybody in the room, but he had that overwhelming charisma dominating everyone. He nodded to the guys and shook his head. There was an incredible show last night at Roseland, gentlemen, he winked. Listen, Michael wants you here at Elektra, so we want you here at Elektra. We'll make it work. Then he left and we all raised our beers in ecstatic celebration. wanted to find the part where I actually signed them, but you know, I have no brain left.
Spoiler stop.
Just tell the story.
Oh, I love you. Tell a story. Let's see. Well, I was a young A&R person. I was 23 years old, and when Bob Krasnow, the chairman of Elektra, said, we're going to give you a job in the A&R department, I was like, oh my God. And I cried a little bit, and I called a friend, and I said, what does A&R mean? He laughed right in my face. So I found out that A&R means artist and repertoire. It's the most important part of a record company. And if you don't make great records with artists, then you're out of a job. Thank God I had 2 good ears, and I wound up working in the music industry for 25 years. I worked for Elektra, I worked for Geffen, and I had Elektra Geffen? Oh, right. My friend, my lawyer, my confidant. So I worked at Elektra, I worked at Geffen, I worked at Elektra, I worked at Geffen. That's 20 years right there. I know, really, it is. I mean, I tell people, I've been having to tell people my life for so long that I could do it in 90 seconds. So let's see, so I get to Elektra, it's 1983, and I had heard this band Metallica. They were on an independent record label called Megaforce. They made a record called Kill 'Em All. And I loved hard rock, I loved heavy metal. Those sounds just stimulated my brain, it like just cleaned my brain. And I loved hearing them. So, I went to see them at Roseland, and it just kind of blew me away. There were like 3,500 kids there, mostly guys in denim jackets and leather, and I had never heard anything like that before. You know, because we were all listening to bands like Black Sabbath and Judas Priest and Thin Lizzy, and the list goes on. But these were young people that were doing something that incorporated hard rock, heavy metal, British heavy metal, punk rock into this one thing called Metallica. And back then we were all drinking so much that we called them Alcoholica. And that was just like the name that everyone gave them because of that. So I don't know what to say. I guess I signed them, and when I saw them at Roseland, they came up to my office the next day. They were young people who wanted like cassettes and vinyl. It was 1983. So I gave them things like the Doors and the Stooges and the MC5, and you know, we sat in the conference room talking about what I could do to help change their life. And yeah. No, this is all from drugs. Kids, don't do drugs. I did drugs my whole entire life. And you know, it's a funny thing. Tonight is 15 years that I didn't pick the drugs or alcohol. It's just like coinky-dinky, you know? It's a coincidence. But, yeah, that signing just kind of changed the face of the music business. And, you know, here we are, here I am talking about them like 34 years later, and they're bigger than ever, and they're better than ever, and nobody sounds like them, and that's a little Metallica story.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, he only wrote few books, and he is willing to introduce himself and sign a book for you guys, especially Ramona Lane. You guys got to get, and we love you.
Oh, I love
and
you
we
too.
support you.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming here.
Oh, I totally appreciate it.
And we're hanging out. Love Michael.
Grew up. It was the beginning of my journey.
It never ends.